There is a particular silence a wolf makes before it decides to kill, and I was standing in the center of it with nothing in my hands. Snow, coming down slow, a ring of the pack's strongest warriors, every one of them shifted, every one of them frozen, not because they were ordered to hold, but because the thing in the middle of the circle was bigger than all of them and had stopped listening to the word king. Its breath came out in clouds. Its eyes had gone to the place where there is no man left inside, only the animal and the rage. And 40 warriors who could have torn down a fortress did not dare take one step closer. Someone behind me was screaming my name, telling me to run. Telling me a wolfless girl in front of a beast like that was already a dead girl. She just had not finished dying yet. I took a step toward it instead. Why I was not afraid, why I have never, not once in my life, been afraid of him, is the whole of the story, and I did not understand it myself until that morning. Let me go back to where it starts. It starts where everything in my life started. At the edge. The last stone marks the boundary of the pack's land, and that is where they put the ones the pack has no use for. The old who can no longer hunt. The sick who will not mend, and the wolfless. The children who reach the age of first shift and simply do not, whose wolf never comes, who are therefore not quite people in the way that matters here, where a person is measured by the animal that lives in their blood. I was one of those. The pack has a word for it. I will not say the word. It was said to me enough that I do not need to give it any more nights of my life. I was rejected at birth, which is the polite phrasing the keep uses. My mother did not survive me, and a wolfless infant is bad luck twice over, so I was carried to the last stone and left with the edge folk, the boundary family who take in what the center discards, and I was raised in the cold with the cold's particular lessons. Keep your eyes down, take the worst portion. When the strong walk by, become a thing they do not see. I was good at all of it. 23 years of practice makes a person good at anything, even disappearing. What I want you to understand, before the king and the bow and the snow, is that I had made my peace with the edge. People always assume the wolfless girl spends her nights weeping at the boundary, wishing for the wolf that never came. I did not. You cannot grieve a thing you never had. What I wanted was smaller and harder. I wanted to get through a single day without being reminded that I was a flaw in the pack's blood. I rarely got the day. I tended the boundary herbs, the only work they trust to the wolfless, because we cannot taint anything that is already growing wild. I knew which moss stopped bleeding, and which root brought down a fever, and which leaf, brewed wrong, would stop a heart. The healer's craft is one of the few that does not care what lives in your blood. It cared only whether your hands were steady and your attention was real, and mine were both, because attention was the only thing I had ever fully owned. So when the summons came for the wolfless to attend the king's court ceremony, I assumed it was a head count. The Iron Territories hold a naming every 7th year, where the pack's strength is measured and ranked and displayed, and the wolfless are required to stand at the back so the court can see exactly how much weakness the bloodline is carrying and decide what to do about it. That last part, decide what to do about it, was not said aloud. It did not need to be. The cull is older than the keep. In bad moon years, when the pack is weak and the winter is long, the edge gets thinner. Everyone knows it. No one names it. The wolfless are not told they are being weighed. They are simply, some years, fewer by spring. I tell you this not as a lecture on pack law, but because it was the exact shape of my fear as I walked into that great hall, that I had been summoned to be counted. And that counting, in a hard winter, is the first step toward subtraction. The history was not a story to me. It was arithmetic with my name in it. The hall was everything they billed it to be. Stone going up into smoke, torchlight, 300 wolves in their pelt-marked cloaks, every cloak a banner of the animal its wearer carried, every wolf radiating the thing that all of them radiate and that I have never once been able to feel: the pressure. The weight of dominance that makes a lesser wolf lower its eyes without deciding to. I felt none of it. I never have. In a room full of wolves, bowing under the king's presence like grass under wind, I stand up straight, not out of courage, but out of a deafness I was born with. I always assumed it was one more way I was broken, that I could not even feel the thing that ruled everyone else. I assumed wrong. But I am getting ahead of myself. And the order matters. The king came in, and 300 wolves dropped their eyes at once. I had never seen him. The edge does not get to see the king. So I will tell you my honest first impression, which is not the one the ballads want. Halvar of the Iron Territories walked into his own hall like a man carrying something heavy and very carefully not letting anyone see the strain of it. He was tall in the way that rearranges a room. He was younger than I expected, and more tired than a man that powerful has any right to look. And the moment he crossed the threshold, every warrior in that hall flinched under the weight of him. I did not flinch. I noticed I did not flinch, the way you notice you are the only one not coughing in a room full of smoke, and I thought. With the old reflexive shame, of course. Even this I cannot feel. Even this I am too broken for. Then his wolf rose up in him. You can see it happen, with an alpha, the animal surfacing behind the eyes, the man stepping back to let the beast look out. It is how he reads a room, how he weighs a threat, how he confirms his pack is his. The court calls Halvar's wolf the one no wolf can control. His own warriors feared it. His own father, the stories said, had feared it. It was the strongest beast in 3 generations, and it answered to no dominance, not even its own masters. And when it surfaced in that hall, every single wolf present went to one knee out of an instinct older than thought. The beast looked across 300 bowed heads, and it found me, standing at the back, in the cold, in no cloak, the one head in the room that was not lowered, because I had never in my life felt the thing that lowers it. Then the king's wolf, the one that bows to no one, that knelt to no alpha, that his own father could not bring to heel, lowered its head. To me. The hall made a sound I have never heard a crowd make before or since. 300 wolves drawing the same breath. The king went rigid, the man surging back to the front of his own eyes, and across that whole vast room of bent backs and dropped gazes, Halvar of the Iron Territories stared at the wolfless girl his beast had just bowed to, with an expression I knew at once, because I had worn it my entire life. He had no idea why. He looked, in that moment, exactly as lost as I felt. And though I did not smile, you do not smile when 300 wolves are turning to look at you like you are a thing that needs explaining. Some small, buried, disreputable part of me thought, well, at least I am not the only one in this room who does not understand me. That was the beginning. Everything after it was the two of us trying to find out what his wolf already knew. If you have ever been the thing a room decided about before you opened your mouth, if you know what it is to be looked at as a problem to be solved rather than a person to be met, then stay with me. Because what his wolf did next, over the weeks that followed, his court could not explain, and his council could not forgive, and I am the only one who can tell you how it actually felt to be on the receiving end of a king who could not control the one thing everyone feared most. Stay at the edge with me. It does not stay the edge much longer. They could not send me back. That was the first crisis, and it was entirely the king's wolf's doing, by every law of the pack, after the naming the wolfless returned to the boundary. But when the guards moved to walk me out, the beast came down off the dais, the man visibly fighting it, jaw tight, a muscle working in his cheek, losing, and put itself between me and the door, and would not move, and the most powerful man in the Iron Territories had to stand in front of his entire court and pretend that this was his decision. "The wolfless one stays," Halvar said, in the voice that ends arguments. "As a healer. The keep has need. The keep did not have need. The keep had a perfectly good healer. Everyone knew it. He knew it. I watched him know it, watched him reach for a reason and come up holding only his wolf's refusal, and I understood, with a small, cold thrill, that I was watching a king lie to his own court, because his beast had not given him any other option. I will not pretend the weeks after were easy. They gave me a room inside the walls for the first time in my life, and walls I was not used to felt like a held breath. The court treated me as a curiosity at best, and a contagion at worst. The cloaked and the ranked stepped around me in corridors as if my luck might rub off. I kept my eyes down out of habit and my attention up out of survival, and I waited for the cull arithmetic to finish itself. Because a thing that cannot be explained is a thing that frightens powerful people. And frightened powerful people tidy up. And the king's wolf kept choosing me. In front of everyone. That was the unbearable part, for him. It would wait outside the healer's quarters. At the high table it would turn its great head toward the back of the hall where I stood, ignoring the noble daughters arranged along the dais like a hand of cards. Once, in the council chamber, with the territory's most powerful lords assembled to discuss a marriage alliance, the beast rose mid-session, crossed the entire room, and lay down across my feet, and Halvar had to conduct the rest of the meeting with his wolf, using a wolfless herb girl as a hearthstone, his face a careful blank. His ears, I noticed, because I notice, going faintly red. He was, I came to understand, genuinely at a loss. This was not a man executing a seduction. This was a man whose own body had defected to a cause he did not understand, who apologized to me exactly once, stiffly, in a corridor, for my wolves, for the imposition, and could not finish the sentence, and left before I could tell him that it was the first thing in 23 years that had ever sought me out on purpose. I did not tell him that. Some things you keep, but I started watching him the way he could not stop watching me, and I learned to read the gap between the king and his beast. And the gap was where I found him. The midpoint, when it came in the archive, and it broke the story open. I had gone looking for a fever remedy in the old healer's rolls, which are kept with the bloodline records because the keep files all its accountings together. Who lived, who died, who was strong, who was culled. I was not looking for myself. You learn not to look for yourself in records like those. You will only find the word they used. I found my name, struck through, on the cull roll of the bad moon year I was born, and beside it, in a different hand, a child's hand, the letters careful and pressed too hard the way a child presses when a thing matters more than his skill can carry. My name written again. Kept, spared, with 3 words after it that I have not been able to forget since. She did not flinch. I was still holding the roll when the king came in. He had a way of arriving where I was. I think the wolf brought him without telling the man. He saw what I was holding, and the careful king's mask came off his face all at once. And what was under it was a boy who had been caught. "You were 9, I said. I did not know how I knew. I knew. That's a child's writing. I was 9. He did not come closer. He stood at the shelf's end the way his wolf stood at doorways, near, not crossing, waiting to be allowed. My wolf came early, and it came wrong. It frightened everyone. It frightened my father. His jaw moved before the words. In the bad moon year, they brought the wolfless infants to the boundary to be left out, and because no warrior would carry a cursed child past the stones. They sent the cursed prince. They thought it fitting. The monster and the defects. 3 sentences, and he stopped and looked at the roll in my hands and made himself go on. You were the last one. And when I came near you, when my wolf came near you, the thing my own father could not stand to be in a room with, you did not cry. Every other infant screamed. Animals bolted, grown warriors went pale. You looked up at the most frightening thing in the territory, and you did not flinch, because you had no wolf to tell you to be afraid. He said it like a confession and a wound at once. I was 9, and I had spent my whole life being feared by everything that breathed, and there was one creature in the world my beast did not terrify. I could not leave you at the stone, so I struck your name, and I wrote it back, and I have spent 14 years quietly making sure the cull never reached the edge again. Because I could not say why it mattered, only that it did. The cold I had carried my whole life, the edge cold, the no-cloak cold, the cold of being the pack's flaw, did something in that moment I have no good word for. It did not warm, it hardened. It became a thing with an edge of its own. Because here is what I understood. Standing in that archive, with my spared name in my hands, I was not a defect his charity had overlooked. I was the one being in the Iron Territories who had never feared its king, and that was not a lack in me. It was the rarest thing in the pack. They had been calling me empty my whole life, and I had been believing them, and I was not empty. I was the only door his beast had ever found unlocked. They told me I was broken, I said. My voice came out lower and harder than the girl who had walked into that hall could have managed. Every day of my life. For not feeling what everyone else feels. You are not broken. He said it fast, like it had been waiting 14 years to be said. You are the only one of us who was ever free. I did not thank him. I did not weep. I looked at the king of the Iron Territories, and I said the thing the Edge had spent 23 years teaching me never to say to the strong, and I said it without lowering my eyes. Then stop letting your court treat me like a thing you rescued. I am not your good deed, Halvar. I never was. It was the first time I used his name. He heard it land. Something in his face came open that I do not think had been open in a very long time, and the boy who had pressed too hard with the quill, and the king who could not control his wolf, were, for one moment, the same person, looking at me like I was the only fixed point in a turning world. I should have known that a secret like that does not stay in an archive. Councillor Dacian was the keeper of the bloodline records, and he had built his life on the arithmetic I have been describing. Strength weighed, weakness subtracted, the pack's blood kept pure on paper. He had also spent 2 years engineering a marriage alliance between Halvar and the daughter of the Ironwood pack to the north, a match that would make Dacian the man who bound 2 territories, and a wolfless herb girl that the king's own beast had bowed to was a catastrophe sitting at the centre of his careful sums. I knew he was dangerous the day he was kind to me. The cruel ones, I could read. Dacian found me in the herb stores and praised my work, my hands, my discretion, and asked, gently, almost fatherly, whether I had considered how much safer my life would be back at the Edge, where no one would have cause to wonder what a wolfless woman had done to bewitch a king's wolf. The word bewitch, set down so softly. I understood the offer underneath it. Leave, and live, stay, and become a problem that gets solved. I did not leave. I had spent my whole life being subtracted from. I was finished volunteering for it. So Dacian did the arithmetic the other way. He could not attack me directly, the king's wolf would not allow it, and that was precisely the lever he used. If the king's beast was uncontrollable, if Halvar could be made to lose the animal in public, to let it slip into killing rage where 300 eyes could see that the Iron Throne sat on a man who could not master his own blood, then the council could declare him unfit, set the marriage alliance as the cure, and remove the wolfless witch who had unbalanced him. One move, and he won everything. He chose the midwinter naming feast to do it, where the whole court would witness, and he chose the one provocation he knew would break the king's control. Me. I have gone over that night 100 times, looking for the moment I could have seen it coming, and the truth is, I did see it. Too late by minutes, not hours. Dacian had me brought to the training yard under a false summons, and he had men there. His men, and he meant for the king to arrive and find his wolfless woman with a blade at her throat, because he had calculated, correctly, that nothing on this earth would make Halvar's beast slip its leash faster than that. The king arrived. The beast came out of him like a storm, coming over a ridge, all at once and total. And Dacian's men scattered. And that was the moment Dacian had built, the king of the Iron Territories, with no man left behind his eyes, the uncontrollable wolf loose in front of 40 witnesses he had quietly summoned to see it. The beast did not go for Dacian. It should have. Dacian had counted on the chaos, the indiscriminate rage, a body on the ground he could name as proof. Instead, the wolf put itself between me and every threat in that yard, and turned outward, snarling, enormous, gone past the place where the word king could reach it, and the warriors who came running could not approach, because a beast that size in full rage will kill whatever steps into the circle, master's wolf or not. Snow coming down slow. A ring of warriors, frozen, someone screaming my name, telling me to run. This is where you came in. Here is what the court expected. They expected the wolfless girl to be the helpless thing in the centre. And they expected, those who had whispered it for weeks, that this was the moment my hidden wolf would finally come, that the bond would wake the beast that surely slept in me, that I would be revealed as the secret Luna the prophecies promised, power blooming up to match his. There was no hidden wolf. There has never been a hidden wolf. I want to be very clear about that, because it is the whole point, and the court got it exactly backward. I walked toward him with nothing in my hands, because nothing in my hands was the entire reason it could work. Every warrior in that yard carried a wolf, and every wolf in that yard was screaming at them to flee the rage in the centre. And so not one of them could take a step. I carried no wolf. I had no animal to tell me to be afraid. I was the one creature in the Iron Territories who could walk up to the most frightening thing in the world and feel nothing pulling me back, because I had been built that way, in the cold, at the edge, and they had called it a defect for 23 years. It was never a defect. It was the key. The beast turned on me as I came. Up close it was enormous, and it did not know me. The rage had eaten the part that knew me, and for one moment I felt the old magic of a wolf's dominance try to reach me the way it reaches everyone. A pressure, a cold driving toward my bones, the bond straining to put fear in a body that had no place to hold it. It pushed. I felt it push, the only time in my life I have ever felt that weight, and I understood it was trying to make me kneel like everyone kneels. I did not kneel. I had nothing in me for it to grip. I put my hand out, not to touch, just to offer, the way you offer the back of your hand to something that needs to decide about you. And I said the only true thing I had. There you are, I told him. I never flinched the first time either. I'm not going to start now. The beast went still. The man came back into his eyes the way dawn comes into a cold room, slowly and then all at once, and Halvar, king, wolf, boy, all three at once, lowered his great head a second time, in front of 40 witnesses, and set it gently into my offered hand. The bow that bows to no one, given twice, now, to the one person it was never afraid to be feared by. And in the silence that followed, every soul in that yard understood what Dacian had built, and watched it collapse on him. He had summoned witnesses to see a king who could not control his wolf. They had instead seen a wolf choose, with perfect control, the only thing it had ever wanted, and they had seen the wolfless girl walk into a killing rage, unarmed, and bring the Iron King home with 3 words and an open hand. Dacian tried to run. Edric, the king's second, who had watched the whole of it with his sword half drawn and his jaw on the floor, did not let him get past the gate. The fallout was not soft. Power does not rearrange itself without friction. Dacian's alliance crumbled, and the Ironwood pack took the broken match as an insult, and there were tense weeks where the North rattled its borders, and the council muttered that the king had traded a strong marriage for a wolfless healer and might come to regret it. Halvar answered every one of them the same way, and I loved him a little more each time he did, though I did not tell him so for a while yet. He did it at the next full court, where it would cost him most. He had me brought to the dyers, me, in my no-cloak, my edge cold, the wolfless flaw 300 wolves had been raised to subtract. The court braced for an explanation, an excuse, a careful king's reason that would make the unbearable thing palatable. He gave them none. He unclasped the grey cloak from his own shoulders, the king's pelt, the highest mark the pack has, the cloak no one but the Iron King may wear. And he set it around my shoulders himself, in front of all of them, and the warmth of it came down over the cold I had carried since the boundary stone, and he did not let go of it until I had taken its weight. She walked into my wolf when 40 of my warriors could not, he said. He was not loud. He did not have to be. She has been at the edge of this pack her whole life because we were too small to understand what she was. We are not too small anymore. He looked at me, and the boy with the quill was right there in the king's eyes, 14 years later, finally able to say it. Stand at the centre, Maren. I should have carried you here the first time, instead of to the stone. I have been told I was supposed to weep. I did not weep. I looked out at 300 wolves who had spent my whole life teaching me to stand at the edge, and I stood at the centre in the king's own cloak, and I said the thing that closed the door on the girl they had made. I spent 23 years being told I was empty for not fearing you. My voice did not shake. I had stopped letting it. It turns out I was just the only one of you who was free. I'd think on that. The next time you decide a thing is worthless, because it isn't shaped like you. No one answered. There was nothing to answer. A truth, set down plainly, ends most things. The payoff, when it finally came quietly, the way the best things in my life have always come. Not in the hall, not in front of the court, but later, at a window, with the snow going by. He told me, in words that cost him, and that I will keep for myself, that his wolf had chosen me at 9 years old, and that he had spent 14 years catching up to it by hand, and that he did not expect me to want a king who came to his own feelings that slowly. I told him I had spent 23 years being unwanted, and that I found I was not particular about the speed of being wanted now, only the truth of it. The kiss that followed was brief, and it was the first thing in my life I did not narrate to myself even once while it happened. I who narrate everything. I only knew it was him, and that for the first time I was warm. It is a year on now, as I tell you this. The cull rolls have been burned, all of them, in the great hall hearth, by the king's own hand, with the council made to watch. The last stone still marks the boundary, but no child is left there any more. The edge folk come to the keep for the winter now, and the hall has learnt to make room. I run the healers' quarters, and I have taken in 2 wolfless children of my own to raise, because I know exactly what they were told the day they were born, and I intend to spend my life telling them otherwise. I still cannot feel the pressure of a wolf's dominance. I never will. Halvar's beast still comes to me on the long nights when the crown is too heavy and the man needs to not be king for an hour, and sets its great head into my hands in the dark. And I do not flinch. Because I never have, and I finally know that this was never the thing that was wrong with me. It was the thing that was right. So tell me, do you think his wolf bowed because of the bond, the way the court decided afterward? Or because at 9 years old, on the worst night of his life, he found the one creature that was never afraid of him, and his beast simply never forgot? I have lived it, and I still go back and forth. I would truly like to know which one you believe, and if you want to hear what the Ironwood Pack sent across the border that spring, because a broken alliance does not stay quiet, and that is a whole winter of its own, comment the last stone, and I will tell you that one next. Stay with me. Pull your chair closer to the fire, wherever you are listening from tonight. There is room at the center now. There always should have been.